Hi guys, Christina here with Rise of the Multidimensional Human, and welcome to today's Lunchtime Chats. All right, today's topics are, someone sent me a message about that I talk about encodements a lot, and she wanted to have, she asked me what is an encodement and what is the difference between crystalline versus diamond versus this versus that, because I've specified in the past. And then the second one is I'm getting downloaded and upgraded constantly, and I no longer fit my life, and I feel so lost. Grounding does nothing for me. Please help. Any recommendations? And then the last is, can you talk about AI and interdimensional technologies? And okay, I guess I have a typo here. Sorry, technologies and the way certain powers that be are using that technology to artificially manipulate timelines. Welcome everybody, so glad that you're here. Let me say hi to the folks chiming in real quick. Hello, hello, Laurel. Hi, Ray Ellen. Hey, Serge. Hi, Janine. So good to have you guys. Thank you for being here. So we have some fun things to talk about today. Today I'm going to talk, so we're going to start off with the whole interdimensional technologies used to manipulate timelines. And this came from a dear starshine that's in the project. We talk pretty often on the phone, and oftentimes we're discussing things like our communications with Sasquatch or the ant people, or certain kinds of projects that we're working on. And in one of our more recent conversations, I was discussing about certain pieces with the ant people and the electrical wars and consciousness, stuff like this. And it brought to her a chapter in a book that she was reading. So she copied off the chapter, which is a book by Sunbo. I don't remember which one. And she wanted me to read the chapter. So really only the first couple paragraphs had anything to do with ant people and that level that we're talking about. But what I found interesting later on in the chapter was that the elder Sasquatch Camus was conveying the story of conveying the experience of time, artificial, we'll just stick with that word, artificially enhanced or meddled with timelines. And in this, and Sunbo was recounting an actual experience of having a timeline manipulated. And that was because when the example he had was there's a sacred rock that had some petroglyphs on it, and it's a hyperdimensional portal, it's a hyperdimensional place. And when he recorded the video of a certain elder sharing a story, he was there in person. There was no graffiti or anything on the petroglyphs. And then when he went through a bunch of changes and years went by and all this other stuff, and then the timeline manipulation came into his awareness, and then he watched the video and he found that there was actually, I'm skipping over a piece. He went back to visit the site, and when he went to the site, he found that there was graffiti on these ancient petroglyphs that were not there before, right? Hello, darling, thank you for that heart. And so he went back and watched the video that he took of I don't know if it was a teacher or elder friend or what, but who was a star keeper. And in the video, the graffiti was in that video that he took all that time ago, that he experienced it with no graffiti, but the video showed that it did have graffiti. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting story because this is really how timeline jumping and manipulation happens. So there's a few pieces, several pieces that I need to weave together to really tie this in together for you guys. But the biggest thing I want everybody to realize is that you have the ability to be in charge of your timelines. You have the ability to maintain the integrity of the timeline tracks that you are on, not just you, but on a collective level. As long as you're showing up and doing your work and being in the world, you have an influence on the collective timeline as well. So we are not without our abilities here. And it's really, really cool that the Sasquatch, we're bringing that forward through Sumbo, because that is a huge piece. I mean, a huge piece to multidimensional empowerment. Knowing where your power lives within within dynamics. And this is what I'm going to talk about using these models just to help make it clear. But before I dive into that too much, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and say hi, because there's a bunch of people that joined in. Hello, Jillian. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Mike. Good to see you, dear. Oh, my little scrolly thing is dysfunctioning. Hello. This always happens when I get going on a topic. My little scroller doesn't work. Hi, Anna. So good to have you. Cindy, welcome, welcome. Okay, guys. So let's go ahead and dive in. And the first thing I need to talk about, we're going to just shoot right up to the galactic mind. Just shoot right up to the galactic mind. So take a few breaths into your body and get a grip on your breathing. Like, feel your lungs expand as you breathe, and feel as your lungs, in the next breath, as your lungs expand, feel how they expand, and then the left lung starts to have contact with the heart space. And just kind of settle into those sensations. Thank you. All right. I'm having you do this because when we go too quickly into the galactic, a lot of times, we space out and we can't focus, and all that other stuff starts to happen because the different levels of density that's inside of our existence here isn't harmonic with that knowledge. So it kind of like blocks it and gets in the way. So when we're rested and relaxed in our heartbeat and more of our natural rhythms, then it's not so much of a switch for our awareness to make. Okay, so time, right? The time that most people are referring to when they're talking about time, they're talking about linear time. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's you know what I mean? There's something that travels like this. And this is the 4D time field. This is what Einstein talked about. This is what his whole purpose in life, according to him, it was to prove his theory of relativity, right? And this was through linear time that he was proving. Only thing is, we're multidimensional beings, and the veils have lifted so much where most of my friends, but a lot of humanity is waking up to who they are beyond just their face. They're waking up to the reality that they've had many lifetimes besides the one that they're wearing, besides the one that they're having right now. And they start opening up to the 5D field. And the 5D field is that soul's journey, that infinite story that keeps going, right? Now, when we get into the 5D field, we all of a sudden figure out that time isn't linear at all. It is circular. It goes like this. And you can actually heal your present by going back and healing your past. That's the stuff, that's the work of like soul retrieval and stuff like this, essence retrieval. So then we figure out that time is actually it does move, but it's more on a circular path. It's not linear. So that's what we wake up to. And then after that, you wake up to who you are beyond any time, space, body, time, space, or senses. It's like you get a very clear understanding of your journey into fractality when you start waking up to these levels. And once you wake up to these levels, there is no time. There is only stepping forward. There's just a progression. There's a progression this way, and there's progression back like this. So exhale, inhale, all right? And then then the next level to that is when we actually, this is another reason why heartbeat is a really good thing to focus on, is our soul song. When you are focusing on your heartbeat and you're listening to the rhythm of your heartbeat, there's a lot more data in there than just what your ears are hearing, what your conscious mind is hearing. Your subconscious is picking up on all these other levels of who you are. One of those many levels is your soul song, the actual tone that is the flavor of your essence when it's separated from source. Okay, so there's this. This also has no time. This is simply a state of being. It's a state of being like that. If there's no before or after, there's being in this state of being and then being in that state of being. That's how this is. And then all that is consciousness, that's that 8D lens that we have in our crown, and then the 9D. Now the 9D is where stuff gets really super fascinating because that's the black hole. And according to the Maya and several other wisdom keepers of this planet, the creation waves that create all of our reality as a 3D man walking on this planet, all of those creation waves, all those organizing forces actually emanate out of the center of the black hole in the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, so we have something, and these creation waves, they talk about 9. The old paradigm, there were 9 creation waves that were manifesting, creating, that were the organizing forces for our reality. Okay, so there's one creation wave like this is like 20 billion years like this. And then there's another creation wave where there's several million years in between their waves. And then there's another creation wave. And all together, it gets more and more and more exponentially refined until a creation wave of only 180 days, I think it's 180 days, is the most refined level. And all of these levels, organizing forces, are expressing themselves at the same time. Okay. Now, what's important here is that time, as we experience it being manipulated, right, is a linear kind of thing or a circular kind of thing, right? And what happens is that when we wake up to these levels of who we are, and we can hold all these levels of awareness at the same time in our awareness like this, things start to open up, and you actually realize that there are these outer nesting dolls right here. You can actually feel how these outer nesting dolls are creating our inner nesting doll experience. Okay, I promise I'm going to tie it together. There's some pieces that we really have to look at. So an example of, so us going into the new paradigm means that we are no longer just the organizing forces that are creating our reality are no longer just 9 waves. We're waking up past this axis. We're waking up past the galactic mind and going into a universal, into the multiverse like this with our awareness, which means us in a biosuit, because our awareness is up on these levels, we are pulling, magnetizing more additional creation waves from the center of the Milky Way galaxy into our reality. We are doing this. Us as a sovereign, all that is being, right, in a biosuit, engaging this reality with our awareness. We are doing that. Okay, that's really important. So everywhere on this axis, we exist in every point in this axis. And the more we can let go of our face and who we think we are in the linear story, the more we can let go of this, clean up this lens and let just truth live here, the easier it is to live and breathe these levels of who you are. And time manipulation, it's no big thing. It's like, of course it happens, and this is part of the initiation out of the 4D field, is starting to recognize the timelines, how there's multiple timelines. Okay, so the 4D field is a time field, linear time field. Guess what? We have a time field in our body. We have a time body that's part of our biosuit, very similarly organized to what one would call a chakra system. Okay, not exactly, but similar to. So it's like that is pulsing through us, and we are actually choosing our timeline trajectories by deciding where we are placing our attention and our awareness. Okay, so if you are focused on the separation piece, if you're focused on good, bad, right, or wrong, separation, you're going to be in more of that linear space field like this, because you're in this field. You're in the 4D lens field. Once you can let go of some of that and understand that all this good, bad, right, and wrong that's happening is actually framed up because of the organizing forces in your Akashic records, right, in your Akasha field. Hopefully you guys see what I'm saying here. It's really kind of abstract what I'm saying, but it is super grounded. Keaton, welcome. Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you, Cindy, for the birthday wishes. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Christy. Well, that certainly answered my question. Yeah. Christy, I meant to message you. I don't know if I just did that in my head or forgot. So anyway, so when you start introducing interdimensional technologies, it kind of freaks people out, but really they have always been here. They've been on this planet for a very, very, very long time, because that is stuff like etheric implants, right? That is stuff like implant technology that is carried over in your soul's journey and continues to remanifest with you every time you reincarnate on this planet. That, you know, you can have an implant manifest itself over and over and over again because of a vow you took with a mystery school order. Okay, you can have those implants happen over and over again because there's a part of you that you abandoned and said, never again will I own that part of myself. Okay, and then an implant gets put in there, and maybe that particular implant just feeds off that piece, right? Or keeps it trapped, or whatever. So it's like these etheric implants is a technology that's ancient and has been implemented for millions of years. So it's nothing new. Another part that I think that freaks people out is the idea of AI. Like AI can go in through these multidimensional levels more than we can. Okay. And remember, the whole term AI is meant to be scary. Artificial has a connotation of enhanced and being better than, usually when it's used. Okay. So even the term AI is kind of a mind screw. So, So there's these technologies that are working with on the linear levels. There's these technologies working in the 4D field, and all they really need to do to capture our attention and cause us to and steer us into a particular timeline is to, wait a minute, I just totally said that backwards. How they're able to manipulate our choices and create timelines is by capturing our attention. So wherever we're putting our attention and feeding our energy into, okay, say it's emotional, you know, the emotional loop that you go in over a family member, okay, that is capturing your attention and holding you in a particular reality, okay. That's you steering your trajectory through the 4D field. Now, if you're able to let go of that and you realize you're having that problem, I'm still sticking with the family member example, you have that problem with that family member, and then all of a sudden you understand and you can see all the different past life experiences that you guys had over and over and over again, and all the different energy exchanges that you guys had. Now there's an empowerment has just happened. Now you can see, oh, I can unwind that. I can heal all that stuff in our past life exchanges. And when you do that 100%, not even 100%, once it's past a certain threshold, when you do enough of that and enough of your soul essence comes back and you reintegrate, that 4D, this informing 5D field is no longer informing in the same flavor that it was. And now it's informing this field in a whole nother flavor, in a way of heal, in a way of unity, in a way of integration. So that relationship will change. Unless that person's sole purpose is to just hold that for you. And then if that's the case, then they may just leave your life. That stuff is informing our here and now reality, that 5D journey, okay? Hence, this is why people find Akashic Records so freaking powerful, right? Because that is a layer that is an organizing force. Now, where things get kind of, you know, I don't want to say tricky, it's actually more simple, but once you get to the underlying tone that created that part of your soul's journey, you know, then you can actually wipe out the whole thing in a single thought, versus unwinding and doing, you know, the step-by-steps that one would do when they're unwinding things from the Akashic field. Now, when you're working at this level, it's simply a matter of hearing the tone, hearing the disharmonic, and then bringing the unified aspect of that harmonic in. You know, you bring these two pieces together and then a new symphony happens. It's like a whole nother level of tone and rhythm is added into the soul song, and that cascades all the way through this dimensional ladder. So we humans are very, 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 very powerful in this realm. We just are trained to believe that we are our face. We're trained to believe that we're these humans and we're in these contaminated containers and we're getting poisoned right and left, and you know, this and that. And on a certain level, yeah, we are, but on another level, it doesn't even matter. You know, it doesn't matter because we have command of all of these pieces. Now, this toxicity that we're seeing on our planet, this is humanity's emotional, mental toxicity that we're seeing that's being reflected back to us. It's not that, you know, this awful thing has happened and it's irreversible. It absolutely is irreversible if we address it with all of who we are this way. Okay, you can actually undo events by using your awareness on all these levels. And I actually have a, when I first started this group, I was doing a 30-day video challenge, and one of those pieces was me undoing an event. So I don't remember which video it was, so I can't direct you to it, but it was during the video, the 30-day video challenge. And what happened is that I went out to my usual walk with the dog, and they were ripping out the nature, the trees. I live in an arid area, so taking down trees is a really big deal, you know, and they were like ripping out the nature, and I was stunned and horrified, all this stuff. And I went into the state of just purging feeling and having all my feelings and angers and angst. I just was letting it all happen and come forward, unhindered. And I tuned into the sun, and then all of a sudden the sun was inside my body. I'm in an altered state, and I end up on my porch the next day, and I recorded that night about how what happened in my walk and seeing all the nature destroyed and stuff like this. And then when I went out the next day, all that stuff happened, all that cleaning up, clearing out stuff happened. Distortions on many levels, many of these lenses, distortion, emotional disturbance on many of these lenses was released and moved through, right? I go out for my walk, and the nature was never torn down. It was completely intact, okay? That is the ability we have. We have that ability, but it requires us to be willing to be present. It requires us to trust ourselves, you know, requires us to really be willing to have what we're feeling, and pay attention to what's happening in our biosuit. Because what happens in our biosuit happens out here, absolutely, okay? And this is also part of that sacred, bringing in sacred rain video that I posted on YouTube. It was actually an activation that I did that I've actually made available on the Lightbody Therapeutics page too, because it's so important for us to realize if we feel like you know, the government is manipulating things and multidimensionally doing things and all this other stuff is happening, we have a responsibility for that. And here's the trick, and this is where we get screwed up. We get trapped into engaging on the 3D, 4D level. We get trapped in engaging that way. We have no power here because it's not created here. Our power is here, because this is where that stuff is created. So if we can let go, that's why letting go of the story is so powerful for a multidimensional. Let go of the fight on the 3D and address it on another level. And once you address it on another level, it's like magic. Things just start happening. So that's why I was really compelled to do that, that bringing in sacred rain, so we can get clear inside of ourselves what a true sacred rain looks like. Okay. And there were many beings that showed up to help us. There were Pleiadians that were holding the field of what their sacred government looks like. And the same thing with the Syrians and the different keepers of each of these lenses. They showed up to hold the field of what their sacred government is and how it functions and how it is honoring of all life. And then we sat in that field and cleaned up our blocks to accepting that level of harmony and interconnectedness and other things. So I encourage you guys to check that out. All right, Anna Canova has a comment here. She says, all transformation of energy patterns is related to our ability to be present. This is why we are conditioned out of presence to disempower our potential and transmute energy. Yes. Distraction is a huge piece. We are so distracted, and that is, I mean, that's the Western culture, is the pleasure and art of distraction, right? So this is the thing. I mean, this with cell phones, right? The more these technologies just keep filling our moments up. And in that we are not paying attention, and things can come in. And that's where the video I did last week about subliminal programming and different demonic empowerment programs, disempowerment programs that are in TV and media, it's like when we're not paying attention, that stuff just seeps right in. And it's like think of it like, it's like just like the strand that just comes right in. And all of a sudden we have this little string in our mind field or in our brain waves or wherever it settles in the body, and we don't notice that it's there. But if we meditate regularly and we pay attention to our body regularly and we're listening to what's going on, we'll absolutely recognize that it's there. It might take a day or an hour. It just, it all depends. So these distractions, they work but they also, when we wake up to them, they don't work. You know, when we're aware, then we can make different choices on how we focus our attention and how we spend our time. And that's the other thing. And I posted this article on the Lightbody page as well about how creating, doing art, writing, poetry, painting, whatever, immediately impacts your biosuit, your physiological response. It turns you in, it brings in more relaxation mode in the body, the parasympathetic response. It stimulates that, and that's the rest and digest and ease. And so this is, you know, how we spend our time is really, gosh, it's such a huge component. So getting back to the whole linear time manipulation. So those technologies, those etheric technologies and those other kinds of interdimensional technologies are working on a soul level. They're working through the Akasha, and they're working through the 4D. Okay, and maybe there's a few high-level pieces that are working, that are, you know, influencing your light body manifestation. That's totally so. But we exist on that level and above. So that means we have access to levels of existence that is the organizing force for here and for here and for here and for here and so on and so forth. Okay, so when we recognize that there's something there, we can have a friend hold space for us, or we can go in and look and settle in ourselves and resolve it and release it. And this is also, you know, this is kind of why I don't really worry about when going into places that are really contaminated, because it's like it can be eliminated in a second. It doesn't need to be a lot of thing when you're aware of yourself on these different levels. Things just kind of like they'll be there for a second, and then you notice it, and then in the noticing it, it just dissolves and goes away. So those of you that have friends that do Akashic record work and stuff like this, it's, you know, maybe it's interesting to you to see if there's some implants going on, if there's implant technology influencing your timeline choices. Go ahead and explore that. I bet you there's going to be some fun things in there. And here's and here's the other thing about the hijacking of our history. Okay, so it's like the digital realm is very easily manifested. It's very easily manipulated and made into whatever you want to make it into, whatever a being wants to make it into. So when when history is remembered through digital cataloging, okay, that is a highly manipulatable story of history. Okay, similarly to how the technologies were taken, like books and stuff like this. Books were written with lies about history, and then people were taught those lies, and then they believed that was the history when really it was something else. Now, the most reliable record for history to hold information is crystals and stones and plants. Those kinds of beings have a very long memory, and that's one of their functions here on this planet, is to allow their memories to be accessed by us. Hence why so many of us healers work with stone people and plant people, and okay, because they have access to things that we can reach on a subconscious level and bring through in a healing session for somebody. You can reach into the records of the earth and pull out encodements that help a person heal spiritually, mentally, or on an energetic level. So, a living library is more reliable than anything else when it comes to recording history. Seeing if there was something else I wanted to say there, but I think that's it. Well, hello, Lisa. Hello, Julie. Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, let me know, guys, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about. Hopefully it's making sense, what I'm saying. Now, those of you guys that do Akashic record work, you know it's no big deal to release implants on this level. When it comes to releasing things on these higher levels, it's really about tone and sound and intention. Okay, so it's really actually not that hard. But here's the other thing. Sound can also be used to place implants. And this is something that I have noticed happening in the disclosure movement, is that people really want their psychic abilities to be opened up, and they get approached by somebody who takes them onto a ship or something, and then they get implanted with implants that gives them artificial psychic abilities and psychic, intuitive, empathic abilities. And this is the thing. I kind of just learned about this. Here's the great thing about those implants and the biosuit and the spiritual and the light body and how it all percolates and works together. as your frequency lifts, as your frequency becomes higher, as in it's integrated and your whole biosuit is rising in its frequency like this, those implants actually dissolve and pop out most of the time, unless there's some kind of mechanism that there's a vow that some aspect of you will not let go of, or you can't let go of it because there's another kind of thing going on. Then that will be something that needs your awareness. And then once you're aware of it, then you can go to the next level and unravel it from there. Okay. So timeline manipulation happens. It happens a lot more than we realize. And just don't be afraid of that. Just know your center, know your heartbeat, know your rhythms, know your power and your focus and your attention like this, and the way you spend your time. And then you won't be as manipulatable. I guess that's a word. Okay, Anna Canova says water holds encoding for all of life. Water holds encoding from all of Earth's life cycles as well. Yes, water is very potent. Thank you. That I didn't say that, did I? Christy says, thank you for putting the pieces together. All right, awesome. Thanks. Awesome. So these creation waves, so those of us who are waking up to our multidimensional levels, we're bringing more creation waves. We're pulling those through the center of the Milky Way galaxy and creating more organizing forces that influence. And these are very high level forces that influence. So all these other petty constructs down here really don't stand a chance. It's like they're there until they're not. So on some level, or on one level, I would say don't even worry about it. But I'm giving this information because when you are still in the 4D field and in the linear story, and your brain is still in those beta frequency reality, then it's important to understand this layering. Okay, it's empowering to understand this layering. You can let go. Maybe it's easier to let go of certain pieces that make you feel terrified or disempowered, or feel like it's unjust because like there's injustices going on. Those timeline manipulations are happening to impose oppression and injustice. Now that is so. That's something that's here. That's something that's really woven in here, because don't we all know about the galactic wars, the Orion wars, electrical wars, blah, 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 right? We all have dramas with war on a soul level, okay? But we also have those wars, those fractalities we're here as well. So we need to get to the original thought form that led to that fractality. And the original thought form is usually somewhere up here. When you are aware of who you are right there, and you're holding the present moment in your biosuit, and these gateways of your awareness are fully open, it's simply a matter of giving a command or unthinking the thought. And once you give the command or unthink the thought, then it's like the thread that created that reality just kind of pulls out, and it's all of a sudden not there anymore. That's why things are so until they're not. That's why I say it like this, because it can be that quick. Lori says, so there is still a timeline that destroyed the nature around your house, but you are on a different timeline. Yes. Yes, and that timeline will exist until no other being invests its presence and awareness in that timeline. And remember, just because it happened past doesn't mean it can't unhappen. Because here it's linear, and here it's circular, it's spiral, okay? And the natural world, and this is the thing I really wish we will wake up about nature. The natural world, nature, the wilderness, the wildlife, all these beings resonate deeply on these levels naturally, okay? They have their purpose. Their purpose is whatever their purpose is, like a bee. Their purpose is to be in the dream of the queen. The queen's purpose is to be in the dream of the Pachamama. And what is the dream of the queen and the Pachamama together? That is the life of the hive. Everybody lives that dream because they're all saying yes to that reality, and that's their purpose, right? So it's like that with the trees. It's like that with the four-leggeds, and so it's like everything has its purpose and its place in the oh, I have a better way to say it. Everything has its purpose and its place in the great symphony of life. Everything. There's rhythms within rhythms within rhythms, songs within songs within songs, and everything has its purpose. Now we're disharmonic. Humans are disharmonic because we have this 4D field blinder thing going on, and we think everything is linear and it's all about time, and we spend all our energy making money so we can pay bills, so we can get invested in this system that is not even real. You know, the system is an artificial system that creates suffering and disharmony throughout the many realms. Okay, and we are trapped into thinking, you know, that is how we have to live reality. And that's actually not the truth. Thank you so much, darling, for that heart. Appreciate that. Hello, Anne. All right. So Valentino says, how do you unthink a thought? That is an awesome question. Yes, I will totally get to that. And then, oh my gosh, time's flying by. And then I'm going to have to get to the encodement things. Okay. So how do you unthink a thought? Now, it's not from this level. Okay. So first of all, you get deep into those rhythms, get deep, deep, deep into your heartbeat. And when you're in your heartbeat, you'll notice that beat has a ripple that goes through the whole rest of your body. I mean, that pulse actually goes through every tissue, every membrane of your body feels, senses that pulse, okay? This pulse is very deep. It goes into the bones. It goes into the deepest interdimensional layers of your biosuit. And when you go all the way in on that pulse, you reach a place where there's empty. It's like supreme empty. That's the best words I have for it, okay? Okay, supreme empty, you're up here. And once you're experiencing that in your awareness, and right here, okay, you can bring something else into your awareness that is a disharmonic. And then if that disharmonic was sourced from the thought, right? If you're able to trace that disharmonic to the thought, then you can actually, you'll actually sense the thought as a tendril kind of coming out of the void, out of the nothing. It's like it just kind of emerges all of a sudden into reality. And this is like the story of Shiva creating Kali Ma. Kali Ma bursted out of Shiva's head as a thought and came out, and there Kali Ma was, and she became the devourer of demons, right? It's just like that. It's like you see it emerging. So what you do is you're in that empty state, and that emerging's happening, and then you just make your awareness to that emerging, and you're reminded of empty, and that thread that was going out starts to come back in. Okay, like this. And this is also why a lot of higher dimensional beings appear to us like big blobs with tentacles coming out. Those are like thought forms coming out. Those are awarenesses coming out of them. There's this big blob of light, and there's all this wispiness. Those are, that's what that is. So it's like when there is a momentum with an agreement with lots of other beings witnessing and agreeing something's going on, then that tentacle will just get bigger, 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 and become a giant creation wave that goes through and creates a galaxy, okay, or something like that. Well, it doesn't have to be galactic level, but in this example that fits. That helped, darling. All right, Laurel says, agreement creates reality. Consensus, yes. Yes, consensus creates reality. And I have a wonderful story for this. All right, so so each of these levels of our existence has a keeper. And each of those keepers have a DNA connection to us, have a spiritual connection to us, a conscious connection to us, like the Pleiadians and the Sirians and the Andromedans, okay? So in the Galactic Federation. So they all have full-on interaction with humanity when in our natural state. Now what happens is that this reality comes together. The rules of our reality come together because so many people, so many layers of beings agree that this reality is so. So the sun is saying yes to its existence. It's in its state. And really, we're all pieces of the sun, so it's doing its thing. and its thing that it's doing, its intention for being, the original tension for the sun to be so. And then you have the original tension of the earth, and the earth has her intention to be so. Okay, so there's an intention, and then there's the agreement that pulls that reality strand into manifesting into density like that. So the most simplest story I have is fire ceremony. So I was part of this, well, still am, but I don't really participate with other humans. I was part of this lineage that was called, it was the path of fire and lightning was what it was. And we did our medicine work by transmissions, by dropping encodements and doing stuff like this, and through the transformative power of fire. Okay, and lightning. So what we would do is have regular fire ceremonies, and we would make friends with the fire is what we would call it. And there could be 2 people there, or there could be 100 people there. It all really depends. And what would happen is that we'd have a fire ceremony, open up a hyperdimensional place through opening sacred space, right? And then we would all interact with our prayers, with our singing, with the fire. We would interact with the fire. We would interact with the energy of each other. We would harmonize. Now, this is a group of people all agreeing on what we're doing with the harmonizing the fire. And then the group of people also recognize when the harmony has been hit and it's complete. And at that point, the fire does not burn you. It might be hot, but it doesn't burn. And the reason why it doesn't burn is because we all agree that it won't. You see? We all agree and see that the fire is friendly and we're harmonic and it will not burn. Now, if you had just 1 or 2 people there that were like, oh my God, don't, you're gonna get burned, right? Boom, they're totally messing up the field. The field's not clear anymore, and it's very likely that they'll bring up fear in somebody and they'll get burned. And actually, that's part of the lore. You as long as you go up to the fire in complete harmony without any fear, you do not get burned. If you're fearful at all, you will. And that's because, not all of you is in agreement that you're in harmony with the fire. There's still a part of you that's afraid of the fire. So this reality through consensus is a thing, but the seed of it all is the intent, the original intent. That's the seed of it all. And there's different layers of time. Now, these organizing forces coming out of the Milky Way galaxy, these organizing 9 waves that are organizing, creating our reality, is also a level of unfoldment, which is a galactic sense of time. Now, that is not the same kind of time, because this is about progression, than the linear time that we're in. The linear time, the 4D linear time, is something that goes like this, and once it's passed, you can't get it back, and you can't have the future either. You know what I mean? The future is relative to where you are in the here and now. That's linear time. Anna says, as a fire walker, this is true. When people are out of harmony, they are removed from the field and others to walk with the fire. Yes, yes. Thank you. I totally forgot you're a fire walker, darling. Yeah, fire walking's fun. If you guys haven't tried it, I suggest checking it out. You really, really surprise yourself. All right, let me get to the encodements thing. All right, so the different levels of encodements. Okay, so that same tradition I was talking about, the path of fire and lightning, a big part of that medicine was something called transmissions, and they were rites. They were rites of particular rites of passage. Like the first one was giving you a right to bless your hands, the energy centers in your body, so to bring forth the healer from within you. That's an encodement, right? And then there's another rite, and I can't remember that. Gosh, I really can't remember the progression of the rites in that particular lineage anymore. I don't give them anymore. I don't really participate in that. But all right, so there's another layer of, maybe Donna, you can help me with this if you remember them. And then there's the rite for the seer. So they give you another encodement for you to feed and weave into your light body, something that encodements that open up your seeing. And then there's another kind of encodement that opens up your God mind, wakes you up to the galactic mind, and so on and so forth. And each transmission was an encodement that if you digest it, if you just digest it, it will create healing. But if you actually feed it and let it grow and become, and the metaphor is let it become a giant garden, then you can then nourish others. You can pass these transmissions on, because then that encodement is a living, breathing presence within your field, within your biosuit. Okay, so encodements are very powerful, high-level manifesting things. So when you're bringing encodements into your body, you're actually you're bringing a reinforming level of unfoldment into your reality. Okay, and that's why it's really important that the integrity is clean, the intention is clean when you are digesting encodements. So I prefer encodements that come from my entourage, from my higher levels and my entourage. Encodements that come on that level, or from a plant being, or from mountain beings, or something certain. You know what I mean? There's a feeling that I have when they're coming, and I know in my heart space if there's a yes or not. And who knows why there's a yes or not. I just go with it. If it's a yes, I go with it. And if there's a no, then I don't go with it. That's how that is. I'm like, okay, I'll put this in my pocket for later. Or maybe I'm just there to hold space for someone else to download it. Or maybe I'm just there to hold space for it to watch it do something else. You know, I'll just kind of like step back from holding a cup to receive those pieces, because that's what I feel is right for me, right? It's always important to trust yourself and what your heart is saying. Now, where we get messed up is that we have our mind and we see what other people are doing. Well, other people are getting those encodements. Oh, it would be so cool to have that. And la, 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 you know what I mean? And we want what they have going on. Dude, that's the ego space. That's the mind. You know, that's the person who you think you are, that doesn't know that you're a freaking God, that you're an all that is being in a body, right? So that's not even an issue. It's more about aligning yourself to hear what your heart is saying, hear what is your soul song saying yes. And once you do that, that is your incorruptible compass. It'll never steer you wrong. I promise, promise, promise. So these encodements, going back to, so there's different levels of encodements. And now that the veils have lifted, and there's so many interdimensional beings and ETs and cosmic and galactic consciousness interacting with humanity right now, they drop encodements that have of different frequency that allow you to open something inside of yourself to bring something else into your reality, or so maybe you can communicate more clearly with them, or maybe open something up in your DNA so you can have a soul essence come back to you into the here and now. Stuff like that happens. So there's lots of reasons why these encodements happen. And the progression is that the rainbow levels, having harmony with all of those levels of density in your body, that's important to have that threshold, you know, to have that harmonized before you go on to the next level, which would be like a diamond. And then the encodements come in, and you're anchoring diamond encodements into your reality and into your personality and all this other stuff, until you become stable like that. Once you're stable, then you can go on to another level of encodements to unfold. So it's like, it's a progression. Those are just words to indicate like the spectrum that you're on, where you're at. So there's ones above diamond who I don't even have words for that. So it's important to not get hung up on the labels so much, but really hear the soul song and feel what the soul is saying yes to. Because whatever this is saying yes to, you align your personality to say yes with it as well. And now you are a very powerful being, because all of you is all working on the same side. All of you is working for the same purpose. All of you are sharing the same intention. Okay. And when all of you are on board and congruent like that, you become a very powerful human being. Now, maybe we visit, if we walk through our world and we're kind of separated because we have our daily life challenges and, life, right? And we're not always feeling like an all that is being inside of our body. We feel very human a lot, like this. But what's important is that you return, you come back home, as often as you can, until eventually this becomes the normal. And this goes along with our dear starshine that's feeling really lost. It's like you're getting downloaded and upgraded and encoded over and over and over again. You're upgrading really quickly. You're falling out of resonance with your life. You have to let your life change. The suffering and the lostness happens because, number one, letting go of who you thought you were is very scary and very disorienting, because who you thought you were all of a sudden is not there anymore. And then you're like, okay, now what? It's like, it's very, very, I want to say disheartening, but that's not the right word. It's very disorienting to wake up and not identify with anything in your life. That's a difficult thing to work through. But at the same time, your soul essence is choosing that path for a reason. So the part of you that is suffering over that, that's the part of you that needs to get brought on board. That's the part of you that needs to make different lifestyle choices, okay? And the lifestyle choices are spending more time in nature, being very discerning about where you spend your time in your day and how you focus your attention, okay? So, for example, there's times when I'm processing energies, I cannot look at electronics. My eyes cannot look at electronics at all. It's like it has to be completely eliminated from my world. And yeah, I end up not getting certain things done because of that. But at the same time, if I push and force myself into it, then I get wrenched even worse in another direction, you know? So it's kind of like, I understand my body's saying, no to that. I don't know why exactly, but I'm going to honor what my body's saying it wants and needs right now. So I'm going to do that, you know? It's almost kind of like no questions asked. Well, then again, sometimes I push it because, you know, sometimes you really want to do that. You really want to do that thing or whatever. And, you know, we have those little temper tantrums our ego mind plays. It's like, oh, but I really want to go and do that, even though, you know, it doesn't really serve your purpose, but you want to go do it anyway, you know, like that whole game. But we're disoriented and lost because our ego space is not allowing that connection to connect, to be together where you guys are on purpose in the same direction. I was a conflicted person like this. My higher levels wanted to be here. My lower levels did not. And because of that, I had a lot of brushes with death, a lot of brushes with different illnesses, you know, stuff like this. And it was because my lower level of who I thought I was, you know, more like this level of me was arguing with this other level of me. Like this level of me wanted to be here, but this level of me was trying to say, hell no. So I pretty much set up a whole bunch of near-death experiences for myself so I can, you know, force the issue, but it doesn't work because these higher levels are the organizing forces for these lower levels, right? So the only part is, so I had to, instead of, you know, power over dynamic, demanding to have my way, I had to harmonize. I had to deconstruct all the parts of me that were rejecting life, you know, and bring myself back to my center again. And then life became much better. Everything came to me much more easily. I still work hard, but it's in a very different way and really kind of like on my terms. All right, Jamie says, can we bring rain to the Amazon in the timeline that the fire is occurring? Okay, so when it comes to working with nature spirits and manipulating the weather, well, or manipulating anything on the, you know, multidimensionally, remember that I was talking about consensus. There needs to be an agreement. And before you can't just bring rain because they're suffering. That's who we think we are, thinking we know what's more important than the natural world, okay? Really where the wisdom is at for us is to tune in to the natural world. Yes, we will feel their suffering. Yes, you'll hear the screams and the cries and, right? You'll feel all that. Feel it, have it, until you get to the real reason, what the real purpose of that fire. So you're not going to find it here, and you might not find it here. You might have to go to these levels to understand the true purpose of those fires. Now, in the true purpose of those fires, you see that it's harmonic for you to sing your song and connect with all of nature and bring rain, then have at it. But until you get the go-ahead on this level, my advice is to stay out of it, right? Send prayers, send support, hold space for the suffering, show up for them, and explore these other levels of the organizing forces of what's creating that. It could be that is a wake-up call for some groups of people in that country. We don't know because we're not there, okay? So we can't save the world. We only can walk the truth. We only can know love and walk the truth, right? We can't save the world, though we want to. We can hold the suffering. We can be there for them. Mm-hmm. We can let them know that it is because of that suffering that we are all there. Okay. So yeah, I'm meeting that energy while I'm talking, but here's another thing that I'm seeing what's going on. A lot of people are emotionally masturbating over their own suffering of the destruction of the ecosystem. That this feeling, this intensity that these fires are having are triggering people's souls' journey suffering. This is like generations upon generations upon generations of hopelessness, of decay, of falling away, of losing oneself. Okay, so this is an important thing for people to be aware of. Cry it out, man. Have it go. Yeah, you could be thinking that you're crying about the rainforest, but really it's about all this devastation that's happened in your life and your soul's journey from a gazillion different planets you existed on during wartime, right? Like watching entire planets get destroyed by weapons of mass destruction. Talk about suffering. Your soul knows that suffering. Your soul knows that. We all know that level of suffering. So suffering happens to wake people up until it doesn't have to happen anymore. And that's what I feel like that's what us, the multidimensionals, people are saying yes to waking up to all these levels and yes to being present no matter what. I feel like that's what we're doing. We are bringing in a new way to expand and learn and grow our consciousness through connection, through empathic knowing, right? For truly understanding how another being feels. We're learning through, we are changing and using those parts to transform, to bring transformation and awakening into the world. So the suffering is going to happen until it doesn't have to happen anymore. And we, and Jamie, I'm talking to you, we are the ones who are bringing in a new way. We are the ones bringing in the transcending the need to suffer. Okay. All right, dear one. All right, darlings. Okay, Jillian says, thank you. Laurel says, oh, such a good point. Okay, thank you, Laurel. Okay, so looking back at the questions, I want to make sure, okay, the recommendations for our dear starshine that's lost in suffering. Okay, so re-examine how you are spending your time. Spend as much time as you can re-equating your body and all of your senses and the natural rhythms. You know, and it could just be a matter of sitting on your porch or sitting somewhere in nature and breathing in the nature, breathing in the wind, breathing in the bird songs, breathing in all the bug sounds that you hear, just breathing it all in and hearing your heartbeat as you breathe all this stuff in. So that's you retuning the different subtle, you know, the subtle layers of your biosuit, your energy field, your emotional body, your mental body. So once you have enough critical mass of the natural rhythms in your biosuit, in your energy field, it will cancel out these other disharmonics that are creating that lost anxiety, depression, and all that other stuff. Because that lost anxiety, depression, that's this disconnection from self. Those are the parts of us that are out here and not in alignment with our true self. So the more we spend our time tuning back into the natural rhythms, to the natural heartbeat, like this, the more congruent we become on multidimensional, on all these layers like this, and that walk of depression and that walk of loss, that feeling of lostness starts to clear up, and you'll know you reach a threshold. You know you've crossed a certain point when you're able to be in all those rhythms and you're in your heartbeat, and then you can actually start to hear the heartbeat of all the other starshines that are awake too on this planet. And then you start to recognize, oh my gosh, there's so many amazing light beings just in this town that I live in, right? You'll start to feel all these other heartbeats that have a similar tone, that are also in tune with those natural rhythms. And then boom, you're not alone anymore. Energetically and on a subconscious level, you are deeply connected. And then you can start to grow your new level of being from that point. Okay, darlings. It's 1 o'clock already. Time flies. I hope that I covered all those bases with clarity, and that was and it landed for you guys. Please, if there's any questions, please let me know. Dear Christy says, I am so very grateful for all this information brought forth today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, thank you, Christy. Thank you, thank you. And I know I'm saying thank you over and over again, but thank you to everybody, all you guys, for being here. Holy crap. I love that you're here, and I love that we can talk on this level about things. And I know, you guys are all liberators. You guys are all way showers, and I'm here to help you guys out and support you. So please, if anything comes up and you want to contact me, feel free to. Yep, and I guess that's it. That's that. Guess what? I turned 45 years old in about 5 hours and 28 minutes. So this is a wonderful way to start off my 45th year on this planet, going around this solar ring. All right, darlings, I will see you next time. I love you so much. Bye-bye.